joined the group. And these two ladies, in fact, they make very valuable input in the food security project, and they took it to some very logical conclusion. So Gayatri, that she has been, I think she introduced that hyperspectral imaging related work in my laboratory, and also developed a grain-based sensor technology for detection of infestation in grains, right? And as Siddharth told, that her work was acknowledged at the national level. And in fact, I think you were the first, or this Rakesh and Dennis, that ready to eat food was the first. That was the first
Yes.
appreciation, and yours was the first award.
Award. Yeah.
And I think that uh, then the tradition followed, and today we have in our laboratory 7 Gyati. That is the
Ji.
3 Gyati awards and 4 appreciation. And if I am not wrong, this must be, I think, a single laboratory in the country, I hope. Well, some people have also remarked on the Facebook, that commented that a single laboratory which has produced so many Gyati awardees from the single lab, and that too consecutively in the past 3 or 4 years. So that is a great achievement for all of us, and this is all the inspiration. That is what I see, that a good bonding among the scholars and the lively atmosphere which these scholars have created in the laboratory, and lively atmosphere all around, that is even working atmosphere, another atmosphere. So let me not take much time, and take, in fact, the Gayatri recently, till recent past, she was here, in fact, 2 years ago only she moved. So all the memories is there in everybody's mind, people. Okay, so let's hear Gayatri without, right? Okay, good.
Yeah. Thank you, Siddharth, for the introduction. Thank you, Misra sir, for your kind words. And thank you all the participants for joining me with this webinar. It is such a overwhelming experience for me that yeah, it's a very emerging technology, and that's why I want to share some of my experience and my research knowledge with you all. So I'll start with the presentation. So this is my slide. Um, is it visible to you all? Hello. Okay. Oh, okay. Fine. Now it's visible or not?
No, not yet, not yet. You have not shared. Just this arrow screen, arrow, and then click on your screen, entire screen. Then share button will activate. You just click on the share button. पहले तो किया था क्या होगा? Yes, now it is fine. You go to the presentation mode.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, fine. Good.
Okay. Um, this for today, my topic is hyperspectral imaging, a non-destructive tool for rapid analysis of food quality. This topic is very emerging technology for the food industry, and the background for this technology, I started in FCTL lab only during my PhD, and as Siddharth already mentioned, I have worked on the quality analysis of stored wheat using various non-destructive technology, and hyperspectral imaging was one of them. And during my postdoc as well, I used hyperspectral imaging for almond quality analysis. And then after I'm doing the postdoc work here in Lethbridge College as well, using this technology. So this is the outline for my presentation. So I will start with introducing hyperspectral imaging. Why the hyperspectral imaging is being rigorously researched currently in food industry personals and researchers. That is due to the need of automation in food quality and food quality analysis. The first thing nowadays is the consumer interest towards improved quality foods. They are now more uh, inclined towards consistent product what they buy from market, and they need higher quality product in individual food product what they buy from market. So there the non-destructive technology concept came because if we want to deliver a consistent product in individual consistent quality in individual product, then we have to do automation in food industry, because we have to analyze the quality of each and individual product quickly and by removing human subjectivity and inconsistency involved. And the emergence of hyperspectral imaging was done by Goes in 1985 initially. He developed actually this technology for Earth observation and remote sensing. Then later, in 1991, Robert ETL, they used hyperspectral imaging in lab for the first time for analysis of agricultural and food. Then now then we'll discuss that if there are existing technology for food quality analysis, then what is the need of hyperspectral imaging? Because it, there are existing technologies such as imaging technology and spectroscopy that are already being used in food industry for food quality analysis. But the limitation in imaging technology, imaging in the sense the use of the digital camera, that is the RGB camera that we used for the surface quality analysis of the food products, they are very inefficient in case of the object with similar color, because the visible light cannot penetrate into the food product, therefore they cannot detect the chemical composition, and they are very inefficient in detecting invisible defects. And when it comes into the chemical composition and some of the defects that present inside the food product, uh, then the visible light camera will not work. Similarly, for spectroscopy, it can detect the chemical composition, but it uses the average spectra. That means if we take a bulk of sample, then it can predict the composition. But uh, in case of certain defects that present in a certain product, then it is unable to predict the exact position or the location of the defect. So, to overcome these limitations, the use of hypospectral imaging is now under effect. So, the hyperspectral imaging is the combination of imaging plus the spectroscopy. Here, we can get the image as well as the spectra, so that we can see the defect and analyze the chemical composition as well. Next, we'll discuss the fundamentals of hyperspectral imaging. As it is a optical technology, first I would give some light on the importance of light. The basic fundamental of the hyperspectral imaging technology is light, and as we all know, light is a stream of photon particles and carry a certain amount of energy. And in our basic physics, we already read that according to Planck's law, the energy contained in a light is directly proportional to the frequency of light. So we can write as E equal to hf, that is, h is the Planck's constant, and it represents the light has certain frequency and it is directly proportional to that frequency. And when this light passes through a prism or a diffraction grating material, then it will produce a light spectra. As we can see from the figure, that when a white light is passes through a glass prism, it will diffracted into 7 different colors of 7 different wavelengths. So when researchers started studied the intensity of these colors at different wavelengths, then the concept of spectroscopy was born. I will discuss about this in my next slides. The next property of light is a electromagnetic wave, that it consists of some electric and magnetic field components, and it oscillates in the direction proportional to each other and form a light wave. As we can see from the figure, that the light wave has certain wavelengths and certain frequency, and depending upon that wavelength, the light can be categorized into various forms such as gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet rays, visible rays, infrared rays, microwaves, and radio waves. Generally, we use visible light in RGB cameras, in digital cameras, and the wavelength varies from 360 nanometer to 700 nanometer, that we can see when it falls on this falls on a object. It reflects back some light, and that we can see it as a color. But the infrared light, which is the wavelength which contains is 700 nanometer to 1 millimeter, and divided into 3 different light waves such as near infrared, far mid infrared, and far infrared. Then next concept is the interaction of light with sample. When this electromagnetic wave strikes over the surface of sample, it is either transmitted through or reflected or absorbed. depending upon the object property. Like if it is a transparent material, the light can pass through, or if it is a mirror-like material, then it can reflect, or if the density of the light and the surface is different, then it will refract. But in our case, the agricultural material consists of complex molecular structure, uh, consist of several different kind of molecules and different property. So light can be diffracted or absorbed or scattered through the material when it passes. Then if we take a lower wavelength light, then it will only penetrate until the surface or until very small depth. It cannot passes through the tissue of the food material. Therefore, it only reflects some of the light to see it as a color. For example, visible light. But in case of infrared light, the light with higher wavelengths, it can penetrate deeper into the tissues, and it can alter the chemical, alter the absorbance of the chemical that present inside the material. Therefore, the light with higher wavelengths we can use as spectroscopy to study the chemical composition of the material. Then next we'll discuss about the molecule, what happens when the light falls on the molecules or passes through the food material molecules. Then what happened? Then we already know that when the molecule of the food absorbs the illuminated light, then it absorbs some of the light because it is opaque material, and the absorbed light we can calculate by taking the difference between the initial energy level of vibration and final energy level of vibration. And the transition between this energy level is called as molecular vibration. And basically there are two types of vibration existed. First is the stretching and second is bending. And due to this stretching and bending phenomena, the spectral signature, the light spectral signature for each and every molecule will be different, and we call it as spectral signature. And based on this spectral signature, this hyperspectral imaging works. Now we'll discuss what is a hyperspectral image. We can call it as hypercube as well, because it is a 3D image. From the figure, I can easily explain from the simple figure here. We can see that the x coordinate, it has a single image contains x coordinate and y coordinate. It is first is the blue image is the 2D image. If we illuminate a certain wavelength light, light with a single wavelength, then it will generate a monochrome image with 2 dimensions, and the coordinate in the x and y, the point present in the x and y coordinate is called as pixel. So when we join this 2-dimensional images, all the 2-dimensional images formed at different wavelengths, then it will form a 3D image, and it can be called as hypercube, because hyperspectral imaging involves a range of wavelength, and at each wavelength it will generate a single monochrome image, and when it is combined, then it will form a hypercube. Then from the second image, we can see that at each wavelength, if we take a point, then if we join all the points for different wavelength, then it will create a continuous spectra. So this is called as the spectral signature at each point for each molecule. So the different molecule present in the food will gives us different spectra. So hyperspectral imaging works on this principle. Then there are different types of spectral imaging. 3 types, mainly we divide it as multispectral imaging, hyperspectral imaging, and ultraspectral imaging. When there is a a difference in the number of wave bands we use for analysis, then the name changes. In multispectral imaging, there are few number of bands. More, it is usually from 10 to 20 bands, and it's a simple image. Then it is called as multispectral image. And if the number of wavelengths in the light is more than hundreds, then we can call it as hyperspectral imaging. And if the number even more, like it's up to thousands of wavebands, then it is called as ultraspectral imaging. Mostly in the labs, we use hyperspectral imaging for food analysis, and then we have to select the sensitive wavelengths for the target molecule that we want to analyze. Then we have to join those wavelengths to get a multispectral imaging for rapid processing when we are going for industrial analysis, because in industry the time is the principal factor for analysis. Therefore, in industry, we usually use multispectral imaging for inline quality detection. Now, the hardware components involved in the hyperspectral imaging systems, that are the major components are camera, illumination system, spectrograph, a translational stage for sample, and a computer. So from the schematic diagram of hyperspectral imaging, we can see that the heart of the system is the detection system that consists of a objective lens, a spectrograph, and a camera where the detectors are present. And when the illumination system provides light of a certain wavelength range over the sample surface, and the sample usually present over a conveyor belt or translational stage for imaging. Then the reflected light from the sample is captured by the objective lens. Then it goes to the spectrograph. The spectrograph usually splits the light into different wavelengths, and then it is detected by the camera. There are certain type of detectors are there. I'll explain later. Then when the image is captured by the camera, then it goes to the computer for software processing using some certain statistical method, and the reference value that we get from the traditional method, the wet lab analysis method. Using those information, the computer generates model where we can predict the chemical composition of the sample. And the second figure is what hyperspectral imaging system looks like. This is the system that is present in FCTL lab. It's a Regeneron system. This system can vary from different manufacturers, and if we are using for lab scale quality analysis, then this kind of system we usually find in the food quality analysis lab. But when we go for any agricultural analysis, then there are certain type of hyperspectral imaging system, like aerial hyperspectral imaging system is also there for remote sensing applications and earth observation application as well. Then we'll discuss something about the spectrograph, which is the heart of the hyperspectral imaging system, because it splits the incoming light into different wavelength or different frequency of light, so that the detector can detect what is the reflectance intensity that coming from the sample and record it as a multi-channel or multi image cube, so that we can get a hypercube and analyze that hypercube for the processing. So there are certain type of detectors present in the hyperspectral imaging system to create the image. There are usually two types of detector used. First is the charged coupled device, CCD detector, and second is the complementary metal oxide semiconductor. We can call it as CMOS sensor for generation of the hyperspectral image. And from the figure, we can see that the blue rectangle present in a array. This is a semiconductor array. The blue rectangle can be called as pixel when the light falls on the sample and reflected back to the detector. Then the detector sends the photon, light photon, and convert it into charge, and all the charge formed in the individual pixels will be converted into voltage through an amplifier, and the image is formed. The only difference between these two sensors are, in case of CCD sensor, the voltage conversion is done at the end after collection of all the charges. But in case of CMOS sensor, at each pixel, the charge to voltage conversion happens in the pixel itself. So usually for food analysis, CCD sensor is mostly used because of their speed of detection. And indium gallium arsenide arrays, semiconductor arrays, are usually present for food quality analysis. Then there are different types of image acquisition modes, like when we illuminate the light over the object, then how the camera acquires the image. So there are basically three types of modes, three modes of acquisition. First is the point scan, which is also called as whisk broom scan. Second is the light scan or push broom scan, or third is the area scan. In case of remote sensing application, the hyperspectral camera used there, it detect the point first, then it joins the point at different wavelengths to form a 3D image uh, that illustrated in image 1, image A. Then in case of push broom scanning or line scanning, the sample is usually placed over a conveyor belt, which is and due to the translational motion of the conveyor belt, it first scan a line, and then when the line goes on, the sample goes on in a translational linear way, then it will join the lines and form a hypercube. So this push broom scanning mode is usually used in case of food quality analysis. uh, uh, then the area scanning system is also applied in food quality analysis sector, because when we use certain wavelengths, like 10 to 12 number of wavelengths, few wavelengths, then it can directly capture the image at different wavelengths. Then let's say 10 wavelengths are there in multispectral imaging system, and it scan a image at first wavelength, then it will take the second image at second wavelength, and combine all the 10 images at 10 different wavelengths and combine to form a multispectral image. So this is a type of image acquisition mode. We called it as area scan system. Now we'll discuss what are the softwares and statistical methods usually used for hyperspectral image processing. So this is a schematic diagram for the process flowchart, we can call it as, to describe what are the processing steps of hyperspectral imaging. When a light falls over the sample, then it will then generate a raw hyperspectral image, which contains a lot of noise, dark current from the electronics involved in the imaging system. That's where to remove those noises, we have to calibrate the system before the image acquisition. So there are several type of calibration involved during the image acquisition. These are wavelength calibration. We have to calibrate the wavelength range that coming from the incoming light. The wavelength should be within either visible range or in the UV range or in infrared range, according to the application what we are using. Then the spatial calibration. That means before acquisition of the image, the light should be perfect, and in case of curvature calibration, we have to calibrate the surface of the conveyor belt, so that the shadowing effect all over the edge of the sample should be eliminated for accuracy of detection. And before acquisition, first we have to take a dark image by placing a cover in the over the lens, so that a perfectly dark image can be obtained. And next thing is to obtain a perfectly white image by placing a 100% reflectance white plate before placing the sample to collect a 100% white image. Then we have to calibrate the reflectance of the hyperspectral image by subtracting the reflectance of the dark image and white image to get a perfectly calibrated hyperspectral image. After getting the calibrated hyperspectral image, now the image contains a very high dimension, because it is a 3D image. It contains a lot of data, and some of the data may be not necessary for our analysis purpose, and it will take time for analysis and also involve complexity. So to reduce the complexity, we have to reduce the dimension of that photo, of that image, by selecting some of the useful wavelengths. For example, we want to analyze uh, aflatoxin in some nuts. Then we have to find out what are the sensitive wavelengths for aflatoxin molecule. Then we have to extract that wavelength from the image, and have to extract the spectra out of the image and reduce the dimensionality of that image for further processing. After the selection of the wavelength and spectra and texture from the image, and after reducing the dimension, now the next part is joining that images what we collected from the process spectra. Then we have to select a region of interest, like in a apple where the bruising is present. Then we have to select that rectangular area if it is visible. If not, then we have to take the whole image. If the detection is visible, then we have to choose the region of interest. Then using the using that data and the traditional using the traditional method, we have to analyze the quality component. Like we want to analyze the ripeness of banana. Then we have to analyze the total soluble solid content or moisture content or color of that banana, or any chemical composition that is responsible for ripeness. Then we have to analyze it using traditional methods. Then using that uh, data, that component that we want to analyze, that component and the image data, we have to combine using multivariate analysis, and a model can be developed for the classification of a ripe banana or a uh, unripe banana using that model. So this is all about the processing steps. I will discuss some of the statistical methods involved in the processing, that is most commonly used methods. So first step is the pre-processing of the images. After taking the raw spectra, there are two types of pre-processing method involved. First is the spatial pre-processing, and second is the spectral pre-processing. Spatial means the term indicates the pre-processing of the image, and spectral means the pre-processing of the spectra that we obtained from the image. Um, Under spatial pre-processing, there we enhance the information content in the image itself. In the image, there is the object, and also there is the background. So we have to remove the background before for the processing. So using binarization, we have to assign some value to the background, like we can assign 0 to background and 1 to the object that we want to process. So by this binarization process, we can threshold or segment the background out of the image. So this is the principal pre-processing step for spatial image. And in case of spectral image, we need to remove the noise involved in the spectra by various methods like smoothing of the spectra. You have to correct the baseline by removing uh, by averaging the spectra and normalizing the spectra by there are various methods such as multiplicative scatter correction method, standard normal variate method to pre-process the spectral data. So after pre-processing, there's a term involved chemometrics. It is the base of hyperspectral image processing. So basically, we know machine learning technique, which is concerned with the uh, statistical method, which can use to automatically learn the model from the raw data, and we can improve the accuracy from experience. Like we have to feed more and more number of data for model to learn from the raw data and improve the accuracy from the uh, various information involved in that raw data to for the accuracy. And chemometrics is the subset of that machine learning technique. Basically, we use chemometrics for analytical chemistry, that is from the from the hyperspectral imaging data or any kind of spectral data. We use statistical methods or mathematical models to extract that data and analyze the information to predict any chemical composition. So there are two types of machine learning techniques. One is supervised machine learning technique and second is unsupervised machine learning technique. Uh, in supervised machine learning method, we usually give some information to the model so that it can learn from the information. And in case of unsupervised method, we don't provide any chemical information regarding the image. We only give the images only, and according to the image data and spectral data, it develops an empirical relationship and classify the quality accordingly. So there are various methods of classification regression involved in this machine learning techniques. That is this is out of scope for this presentation, but I will explain some of the mostly used method in hyperspectral imaging process in food quality analysis. The first classification technique is the principal component analysis technique. In this, the vector data, like we have the wavelength information, the reflectance information from the image and spectra, and we have the composition data from reference analysis. Then we have to correlate those data to classify the pixel of the image so that we can predict from the bulk where the contamination is present. From the simple image, I can just explain that. Here in the A figure, there are several types of fish shown, and we can measure the shape of the fish, or we can classify the fish according to their height and width. Height and width are two independent variables, but we need to reduce the height and weight variables into a single variable, that is shape score. And according to shape score, we can classify the fish in 4 classes. Basically, in this method, we orthogonally transform a vector into a new dimension so that the dimension can reduce, like the two of the independent variable can be reduced into a single variable, that is shape score, and according to that we can classify the fish into 4 classes. So this is basically used for classification of the hyperspectral image into the unwanted products and that desirable products. Then quantification methods using regression technique. So regression is basically a relationship development of relationship between a spectra with a major property. And partial least square regression is one of the common method that used in hyperspectral image processing, and it is similar to the concept that I already explained for PCA, but here it is a regression technique where we have to develop a relationship between the independent variable and the response. And beta coefficient is the term which contains the weightage of the predictors that will explain which predictor is useful or which waveband is useful for our processing method. Like as I explained, for a certain contaminant that we want to detect, according to the molecular structure, the wavelength are specific, and we have to select that wavelength for development of the prediction model. The next technique is the artificial neural network technique. It is a technique inspired by human nervous system that allows learning by example from representative data. Usually, it is used for non-linear problems where the linear regression doesn't work, where there is not any definite relationship between the independent variable and dependent variable. There we adopt ANN method, where an empirical relationship is established by the hidden neurons present in the artificial neural network technique. There is an activation function which produce a empirical relationship from the data that we fed into the system and develop the output based on that. So this is the most common technique used in hyperspectral imaging. Then there are softwares that is available. Obviously, in open source, there are some of them, and commercially used techniques that we need to pay for that softwares for the image processing. Open source is the HyperTool, HyperSpy, and Gerbil. There are three softwares, and for commercial purpose, there are ADAS Imagine, mostly used for remote sensing application. There's NV, MATLAB, and MIA toolbox for multivariate image analysis. And Skylaris is also a very well-known technique, well-known software for hyperspectral imaging. Then after discussion of all the fundamentals and chemometrics involved in hyperspectral imaging, now we'll discuss some of the applications in food quality analysis. So these are some of the application. In case of grains and nut, hyperspectral imaging is used for variety discrimination, detection of insect infestation, fungi detection, mycotoxins, and disease kernel separation from the fresh ones, and we can also analyze the chemical composition. Similarly, in case of fruits and vegetable, there are certain parameters we can analyze using this technique that are maturity, freshness prediction based on moisture content, texture such as firmness, crispiness, bruising that present in the fruits or vegetable, and any kind of microorganism contamination we can predict, or we can judge the ripeness even in similar color fruits and vegetables, where we just cannot predict ripeness using the color. There we can judge the ripeness using the chemical composition of that product. And in egg industry, there is a significant need of hyperspectral imaging for detection of freshness of the egg, and also it's a emerging field of prevention of culling. That is for as we know that we don't know the sex of the egg when the sex of the egg, but the male chicks, when they are born, we have to kill them because they are not very useful for their further processing. So hyperspectral imaging can be used for in novo sex determination to prevent this culling. This is very much helpful for human. This is very much useful for egg industry uh, as a. Then in case of meat and meat products, we can use hyperspectral imaging for detection of marbling, then drip loss, freshness prediction, and for detection of adulteration and prediction of tenderness. Similarly, in case of fish and seafood, we can detect the freshness of the fish by detecting the total volatile basic nitrogen content, and by analyzing the protein, fat, and moisture content. And also we can analyze the PUFA and MUFA content, that is very much useful for seafoods. So these are some of the applications, and I will give some example of recent research publications in which they applied hyperspectral imaging for quality. So first is the rapid analysis of insect infestation in stored wheat. Um, this is the work for my that I have undertaken for my PhD degree in FCTL lab. Um, in This is the figure showing the methodology that I have taken for uh, taken for detection of insect infestation in stored wheat. First, I took fresh wheat, then I condition artificially added water for to produce different wheat grain for with varying moisture content. And the moisture content were varied from 10%, 12%, 14%, and 16% weight basis. Then I infested two types of insect, S. oryzae and R. dominica, and let the infested wheat stored at 65 RH and 27 degrees centigrade for different storage durations, such as 45 degree, 90 degree, 135 45 days, 90 days, 135 days, and 180 days of storage under incubation. Then after each storage duration, I extracted the infested wheat out of the incubator and analyzed the quality parameter for detection of infestation. I took three parameters, that are number of insects, protein content, and uric acid content. And I used three non-destructive methods, and hyperspectral imaging was one of them. And I extracted the hyperspectral images of the insect fresh wheat as well as the infested wheat, and combined that information with the analytical parameters that I obtained from the reference method, and we developed a partial component analysis pixel classification map, so that we can uh, determine the level of infestation from the image itself, so that this technology can be applied in line for grain insect detection. So from the figure, we can see that the intensity of the color, that is the blue, is for less intense, less intense chemical composition, that is assigned for the higher infested grains, that is blue color. Like less intensity means the higher will be the infestation rate, and according to the color we can classify the fresh grain and the stored grains. And if we can see, then from the fresh grain, the orange color is more dominant, and as the storage duration increase, the intensity of blue color increases, as the nutrition, like the chemical composition such as protein content, starch content, and fat content was decreased during the storage duration due to insect consumption. And from the figure, we can discriminate the fresh grain and the stored grain. Then I developed a artificial neural network model for prediction of S. oryzae infestation, and these are the regression plots that I obtained from the optimized neural network. First is for the number of insect, and the regression value was good. Like the R value was 0.99. That means the actual number of insect that present in the grain is more or less similar to the predicted number of insect that I obtained from the hyperspectral data. Similarly, for the protein content and uric acid content, also I got good result using the artificial neural network model. And the models were also validated using the standard error of calibration, which were very low for all the three components, showing very good predictability of the hyperspectral imaging system. Next application is the detection of aflatoxin contaminated almonds. This is the research work I have conducted during my postdoc in University of South Australia. Aflatoxin is a secondary metabolite produced by Aspergillus flavus fungi, and it is highly carcinogenic. And the aflatoxin is distributed randomly in a bulk of almonds. We just don't know which almond is contaminated with aflatoxin, and for that it is very for that actually by the quality authority bodies, they used HPLC method to detect the aflatoxin, which is the reference method. But for that we have to destroy a bulk of almond because we don't know which almond is contaminated. So we have to destroy a bulk of almond, and that is huge. Like for detection of aflatoxin in a 20-ton batch, we have to destroy at least 10 kg of almond. So for small farmers, it is a huge loss, and the analysis time is very high. Therefore, we applied hyperspectral imaging for detection of aflatoxin in single kernels, and the methodology is shown in the picture. First, we artificially spiked the almond with standard aflatoxin, and the range varied from 0.25 microgram, 0.75 microgram, 0.5 microgram, and 1 microgram per almond. Then we captured the image using hyperspectral imaging system and simultaneously analyzed the aflatoxin content using HPLC technique, and using the reference analysis data and spectral data. We developed a partial least square model, and from the model we predicted the aflatoxin content in each single kernel. And from the second figure, this is the prediction result, and the R square value was about 0.93. Actually, the more detailed result I could not present in the presentation because it is a part of the patent process that we applied there in Australia. So there are two things I can just say. We applied competitive adaptive reweighted sampling, that is a CARS algorithm we used to select the useful wavelengths for aflatoxin. Basically, there were certain wavelengths, about 10 wavelengths we have taken, and developed a multispectral imaging camera for rapid and inline prediction of aflatoxin content in single kernel almonds. That can be useful in detection of aflatoxin content when it is moving on the conveyor belt in industry, and the process was very rapid and it was acceptable by the industry as well. The next is the quality analysis in case of fruits and vegetables. This is a recent research by Chi et al. In 2018. They detected bruising in apples. Sometimes we experience that there is some internal browning in case of apples that we just cannot see from the surface, but due to impact or abrasion during picking and transportation, there's a micro hole developed over the surface of the apple, which in subsequent stages that infiltrate oxygen through the hole and deteriorate the internal tissue of the apple. So hyperspectral imaging was a useful technique in detecting the bruising of apple without destroying that. So First figure shows the average spectra they obtained after 0 hours of bruising, 12 hours after bruising, and 18 hours after bruising, and observed that there is a spectral variation at 0 hours of bruising, and they found that large consumption of total sugar and water at early stages of bruising happens, and as the browning progresses, then there is a consumption of carotenoid and chlorophyll pigments in the subsequent stage after 12 hour and 18 hours of bruising, creates the internal browning inside the apple and produce a higher peak at around 600 to 700 nanometer. That is very low intensity we can observe in the bruise after 0 hour, but it is getting intensified after 12 hours and 18 hours. So second figure is the PCA processed image. From normal visible light, we cannot just detect the bruise, but from the hyperspectral image, there is a point of bruising area we can see from the picture that we can detect without destroying the apple. The next application is the quality analysis in strawberry, basically the strawberry ripeness detection. And in Sao et al. In 2020, they took the three ripeness stages of strawberry. They were ripe, mid-ripe, and unripe, and they classified the strawberry using the hyperspectral images. And first figure represents the average spectra of the strawberries, and we can see that due to the carotenoid difference, as that in the unripe spectra, the carotenoid is intact, and the spectra is presented in dotted lines, and this is very much different from the ripe one. And from the spectral variation and the reference data, that is total soluble solid and acidity of the strawberry, they developed a PCA processed ripeness classification map. From the map, we can clearly distinguish the ripe, mid-ripe, and unripe strawberry, which can be useful for grading of the strawberry in industry. Next application is the lettuce freshness detection. Zhou et al. In 2017, they applied hyperspectral imaging for the moisture distribution map, because moisture is the parameter for determination of freshness in lettuce leaves, and they took 200 lettuce leaf of high moisture content labels and extracted spectra, and we can see the obvious difference at certain wavelengths. So these are the sensitive wavelengths from where we can judge the freshness of the lettuce, and they developed a PLSR model and predicted the moisture content with accuracy of R-square value, with R-square value 0.83 and root mean square error of prediction of 0.16. So second figure representing the predicted moisture distribution map on lettuce leaves. Then next thing is the quality analysis in case of meat and meat products. The first application is the detection of beef adulteration with spoiled beef. The minced beef that is adulterated with spoiled beef, and one of the research conducted in 2019, they used the spectra of the hyperspectral images and found that there is at around 540 nanometer and 566 nanometer, they observed the difference in the spectra due to the respiratory pigment, that is myoglobin, that is converted to deoxymyoglobin in case of the adulterated meat. In case of fresh meat, the myoglobin is still intact. So there is a variation in the spectra in case of adulterated meat. So, and another thing is the band near 900 nanometer that is assigned to CH third overtone, from which we can just predict the fatty acid composition of the fresh beef and spoiled beef. And using this information, they developed a visualization or pixel distribution graph for fresh beef and a adulterated beef. And the blue color that represents the lower intensity graph, that means it has very low adulteration. And the red meat, it is representing the beef adulterated with 99.82% of spoiled meat. So this is a useful technique in meat quality estimation as well. Then in case of eggs, the freshness, uh, there are various techniques for egg freshness, but when it comes to industry application, then we have to detect the egg freshness using hog unit. It's a standard unit used for freshness index in industries. And one of the research conducted in 2017, they stored egg at 25-degree centigrade and studied the freshness at a different storage duration. And using hyperspectral imaging, they differentiated the spectra of fresh egg and unfresh egg, and also extracted the quality map. From the image, we can just distinguish which one is the fresh egg and which one is the unfresh egg. And this image can be processed for inline quality detection of eggs. The last application is the quality analysis of fish. Also, it can be used for seafood as well, in using the same concept. And first application is the tilapia fish fillet freshness. UETL in 2021, they use two type of hyperspectral imaging. First is the visible near infrared, and second is only near infrared hyperspectral image, uh, to extract the spectra of tilapia fillets, and compared the spectra with the reference value, that is total volatile basic nitrogen content, which is usually used for the freshness index in tilapia fillets during cold storage. And the intensity varies when the TBBN value varies. And from the first figure, there is they observed there is a obvious difference in case of the fresh fillet and the spoiled fillets. And they produce a hyperspectral image pixel distribution graph, where we from the map we can just discriminate which one is the fresh one, which one is the spoiled one. So this technology can be used for automatic quality distribution of the processed tilapia fish fillets in industries. And using the same concept, we can predict the chemical composition of seafood as well, because the PUFA and MUFA content are the most important parameter in seafood quality analysis. So using this technology, we can also predict the PUFA and MUFA content as well. So summarizing the hyperspectral imaging technology, here are some advantages. I already explained that it is a non-destructive technology with it required no sample preparation. First step, we have to develop an image library, then we are done to analyze the quality parameter rapidly using this technology. And it could be used for inline quality analysis for individual product. And hyperspectral imaging can provide us qualitative and quantitative measurement data both, which is very unique part of it. And it allows visualization of different biochemical constituents, how it is distributed over the sample that we can analyze. It can determine the several constituents simultaneously in the same sample. Like if we want to determine the protein content, fat content, or moisture content, then we don't need to take separate sample for that. Scanning the same sample, we can determine this constituent simultaneously. And it is a chemical-free treatment. Doesn't use any harmful chemicals, so it is safe for environment as well. And once calibration model is built and validated, it becomes an extremely simple and expeditious analysis method. And it is eventually will become economic process as compared to the traditional methods, uh, because it can save the labor cost, it can save time, increase the productivity of the industry, and it can reduce the reagent cost, that is the chemical cost involved in analysis, and also save the large amount of money in waste treatments, because we don't have to waste such a huge sample for quality analysis. Using very small quantity of sample, we can analyze various quality properties. Then the challenges and future scope of hyperspectral imaging. Mostly the challenge involved in the hyperspectral imaging is the substantial amount of data. Uh, for that, in future scope, obviously from the research, it also been developed that using sensitive wavelengths we can extract the useful data and apply that data for development of a multispectral image, so that the dimensionality can be reduced and the process can be simplest. So obviously this is a challenge for researchers as well to develop various process for selecting the sensitive features to avoid considerable computational challenges. And the stability, consistency, and accuracy are three basic challenges of this technology, because agricultural materials are very complex materials, and the shape, size, variety, there are several variation involved in that. So we have to develop a accurate method by taking various maturity levels, or we have to collect the data from various origins, from various harvesting season, to develop a accurate model. So this is also a time taking process, but still the research is going on for development of improved statistical methods to meet this challenge. And uh, next thing is it take a long time for image acquisition and analysis. Therefore it is limited for directly implementation for online systems, but it can be applied as a multispectral imaging for rapid analysis by selecting the sensitive wavelength, as I already explained. And also we did it during my research work in University of South Australia. We uh, selected the useful wavelengths and developed a multispectral imaging system for direct application of that technology for almond quality analysis. Similarly, we can go with that. Uh, then it contains a series of successive overlapping bands. So as OH band, NH band, these bonds are very common bonds existing in different molecules. So it is a bit difficult to assign a specific chemical group to a specific spectra. So for that, we need advanced feature selection method and advanced statistical technique to analyze this kind of data. So this is one of the challenge. And imaging of liquid samples or even suspension is limited for use, as the constant sample motion serves average spatial information, because the molecules are all similar in case of liquid samples or in case of suspension, and during the image acquisition we need to be very perfect, so that the noise involved during motion of the sample could be stabilized. So this is also a challenge in case of hyperspectral imaging. And future scope I already discussed while discussing the challenges. There should be some advanced feature selection techniques and statistical methods for overcoming this limitation of hyperspectral imaging. So thank you for listening me. Uh, so these are some references that I used in my presentation. Thank you.
Yes, it was a very informative presentation. That's good.
Thank you,
Nice,
sir.
nice presentation.
I hope so because there are no question either I have explained it well or I haven't explained
ऐसा
it.
नहीं है अभी तो टाइम मूड पीपल आर नाउ नॉट टाइम ऐसा है ना
हाँ हाँ जी
आई
सर.
थिंक पीपल आर इन डिनर मूड और सैटरडे का दिन है तो थोड़ा सा बट एनीवे आई थिंक देयर मस्ट बी सम क्वेश्चंस फ्रॉम यंग माइंड्स
Thank you, Siddharth. Um, yeah, if there is nothing to ask here, then you can provide my email ID so that after watching this video, they can directly email me if there is any query regarding this. So, yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yes. Mhm. Uh, Actually, the variation is mostly due to the molecular vibration. For a particular molecule, there is a spectral signature that is varies. But we have to develop the library because as the variation is there, and if the maturity level is there, as the biological sample is very diverse in nature, then to cover that variation, we need to develop a library so that the variation uh, occur within the sample that can be minimized uh, by analysis. By applying the statistical methods, the model can learn that yeah, these are the same sample from a same library, like same variety. Then uh, then it can predict the quality that we desire to estimate. Then this is different from the variation that involved within the sample. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. No, it actually not change in the wavelength. On the same wavelength, by using the same wavelength, I only change the infestation level. As the infestation increases, the chemical composition of the grains change. Uh, like if the protein content will change, then the amount of vibration produced by the protein molecule will change, right? So, yeah, based on that variation, uh, models were developed.
Ma'am, I have a question. Usually, I think in 2015-16, I was studying about this topic in my master's. That time, I know in India that hyperspectral was not being used. When you were working in our lab, I think our lab was one of the few labs which had this hyperspectral camera and
Yeah.
used to have high regard about it because Gayatri ma'am used to work on it.
Mhm.
Now, do you know what are the applications, especially in Indian products? Any application currently? Because I know about your work, you had worked on rice and wheat.
Mhm.
Is it being applied in industrial or in India?
No, according to my knowledge, still this technology has not been commercialized in India. But in North America, there are certain applications are being applied for apple bruise detection, and like I said, for knot quality estimation, they are greatly use this hyperspectral imaging system. But in India, I think according due to the high initial cost, I think it is still needs some research to be made it cost effective and used in industry. So that is the limitation.
Thank you. Siddharth, I think Jayati ma'am has asked a question.
Yeah. Yes, the sensitivity is very as I explained in my slide, that we can detect aflatoxin level in such a low level. Like this sensitivity varies according to the chemical component that we want to analyze. I can give an example that for aflatoxin we have taken like 0.25 microgram. So this is a very small amount that can be present over a almond. So I think, yeah, it is very much sensitive to detect TBPN value, and there are several research papers available. One of the application I already explained in the slide. You can go through. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Obviously. Yeah, it can be used because it's totally based on the chemical composition, and the organic and inorganic samples are totally different in relation to the chemical involved. So it can be. Yes.
Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. So today on this topic was not about knowing about a non-invasive, non-destructive quality approach, but a very organized lecture on starting from the definition to the process technology applied to the various parts, about cameras, about the post processing technology of image involving PC, its nooks and turns, various application in which our current our speaker Dr. Gayatri have told during her PhD, her postdoc, and current work. It's a great pleasure to listen to you, ma'am. And I would like to thank our FCTL members who had taken painstakingly all the worried and all the working for organizing this webinar, our coordinator Professor Lechan Mishra, and all the attendees who were patient and patient to hear our presenter. Hopefully to see you all, and thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gayatri.
Thank you, Jayashree. It's a very pleasure to be present here and interact with you all. Um, thank you, Mr. Sir, for giving me this opportunity. Thanks once again. Unmute, sir.
Okay. I was telling, thank you, Gayatri. Stay blessed and keep on doing good works.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Our next webinar is on 18th November by Dr. Sanchita Viswas.
It is on
We will
13th November.
notify
It is on
the
13th
topic,
November.
the timing shortly. Thank you for joining, everyone.
It is on 13th November.